Hey there, my name is May, and I am a coach that helps people who are stuck or feeling confused on their mental health journey learn how healing actually works so they can cope with and live beyond their symptoms so they can have a life that is fulfilling and worthy of living to them. And today we're going to be talking about feeling unsafe, and specifically if it relates to like trauma. Ooh, my breath is being taken away. I'm like, ooh. So I have a couple things to say on this because this is an experience that I think can be really hard for people, and it's usually like a constant feeling of being unsafe. It could be in specific circumstances, but usually what I've observed, it's not just like you feel unsafe for like a moment. If it is, then I would wonder if that's more like an emotion. I would get curious about it, but like you're unsafe because of a specific emotion or internal experience. But if it's externally based, usually it's like you feel unsafe when you're not in that experience. No, you feel unsafe when you're in the experience, and then you feel safe when you're not in the experience. So if you feel unsafe when you're out of your house, you're probably going to feel safe when you're in your house. You might feel unsafe when you think about going outside of your house, but you know, it's usually a callback to a specific experience, to like when your body was unsafe. So this is how it kind of relates to trauma, where it could be like a specific time where you felt unsafe, and then for some people this can become chronic, right, which is so understandable. Or it can just like start with one place of where you feel unsafe. Like maybe it's like, I keep going to this example of a grocery store. So maybe you feel unsafe in the grocery store, but then it, extends to the parking lot, and then it extends to being outside, like, eventually, right? I have a video on feeling politically unsafe. Like, if you're living in a place that is, like, the country's unsafe or the politics are unstable, I'll link that below. I think that fits very well into a feeling unsafe framework, but this will also help. So I kind of recommend both videos, if you just want to, have more tools in your toolbox to feel safe in general, but it's going to change to whatever your specific situation is. So first, let's talk about, if you're dealing with feeling unsafe constantly, I'm going to assume you kind of know what that means. I don't really feel the need to define it too much, but it's really just, when you feel unsafe, but logically you're like, I don't really think I should feel unsafe right now, or your body is giving you signals that you need to get out of somewhere, or you need to not be, in the current situation that you're in, but you're like, this actually doesn't make any sense. Like, I actually am safe. Most of the time, like, logically, you're like, what? And that the logic could have come afterwards. Like, when you're in it, you could really feel like you're unsafe. But, like, afterwards, you're like, I really don't know why that keeps happening. I don't know why I keep feeling unsafe. So, the first thing I want to talk about is thoughts. And I'm not going to spend too much time on thoughts because I think that this usually goes beyond logic, like I just said, because our bodies and brains are almost in a different time and space. They're on different wavelengths, per se. And so it's not logical, but, if you do feel like in these specific moments of feeling unsafe, that are thinking you're unsafe, that you just have a lot of like specific thoughts about it, like people are going to come out to get me, or what is this person thinking about me? What is, what are things coming out of my walls? Like, I don't know, whatever that unsafety is to you, using the thought stopping or challenging in that moment can be helpful. Sometimes it can feel not real or seem not real, and you kind of have to reinforce it over and over. That's kind of like retraining your brain over and over to be like, no, I am safe right now, or like, that's not happening, or like, I could be interpreting this wrong. Right? And just saying that over and over, because sometimes then, your brain's gonna be like, hey, you could be wrong, and you have to be like, oh my god, you could be wrong too, and this is the version of reality that's real, and you're like, wait, no, actually it's not. Like, sometimes you have to have that internal dialogue with yourself, but that's the work. So, some other things are just like reminding yourself you're safe, and that you've never been in this place in your life, you've never been at this age, and you're probably stronger and wiser, than you were at whatever, other time that you were unsafe. And I know it sounds a little corny, but I think it's really true, where you have just never been in the place of your life that you're in right now. Right? With the tools that you have, the knowledge that you have, the space that you're in, and that's going to change eventually. You don't even know what it's going to look like, probably, but it's still going to be different because you're going to be older. Your brain's going to be different. You're going to have different experiences, right? So the other way to, I kind of think about unsafety is really knowing how it has its roots in trauma, and especially childhood trauma, and how just like pervasive that can be, because it really strengthens the non-logical response. And then we can have like guilt and shame over it. Like we can be like, I don't understand why I feel so unsafe all the time. I feel bad about this. I shouldn't feel this way. And, you know, it's usually a part of our past that we kind of need to coax into the present. And that can take a while because we're, you know, trying to soothe those younger parts and, you know, really be, you know, really care about them and be there for them. And that's so important. And I think it's just important to have in mind that those feelings of being unsafe could persist for a long time. They also could not, once you find the way that works for you. They could become much easier to deal with, but also not, right? So yeah, I think about it in terms of emotions. Like a lot of the times when we feel unsafe, it feels very distressing, okay? Because what you are going to need to do in that circumstance is give your body and brain the signs of safety. Challenge those beliefs that you may have about the world or yourself or other people, and then do that rewiring process of changing your belief over and over, of rewiring your body over and over until it feels safe enough to be in that circumstance. I just think that when you're in that, it can feel like it's impossible. Like, you know, because it's the feeling of being unsafe can be so intense that it feels like it's all consuming. And as I always say, experiment with more things, experiment with more strategies, and eventually you will find the way that helps you feel safe in those moments. It also could take a while, you know, with that rewiring process. But even if it helps you feel a little bit more safe, that's information that we have. So, you know, also self-soothing might be really good. You know, what helps you feel like you can be more calm, more regulated, more relaxed, and then trying to bring those items or images with you when you're in these experiences. But yeah, and when it comes to feeling unsafe, I feel like sometimes things might work and they might not work others. So I think it's important to have like multiple things in your toolbox for it so you can really get clear on what helps you. And then, you know, when one thing doesn't help, you have like 5 other options, right? If a stress toy doesn't help, you have deep breathing, you have calling a friend, you have that image you could pull up of a safe moment in your head. So I encourage you maybe to watch the panic attack video, because I think a lot of this goes back to panic attacks. Feeling unsafe constantly is not a panic attack per se, but I think there is a lot of overlap in terms of the help that can be around with that. So check out the video on panic attacks for that too, that I'll link. Lots of other stuff on safety, I guess, which is why I think it kind of relates to panic attacks, like in that sort of sense. So yeah, also think about your nervous system. What gives your nervous system the signs of safety? Is it, you know, temperature? Is it breathing? You know, movement? You know, experiment with that. And lastly, I'll say that connection is so important with safety. And oftentimes we feel unsafe because we don't have secure connection and secure attachment, and that this is why, you know, bringing your friend somewhere helps you feel so much safer. If you don't have anyone to bring with you, or you know, do have someone at sometimes and not others, you know, I'd invite, like, you know, when you're in that experience, to imagine that person being there, or just imagine something they've said to you, float back to that experience, because your body is going to feel it on some sort of level. You know, even if it's not a lot, even if it's just like a little bit, your body's going to feel, okay, I was safer on that person. Like, you know, just float back to an experience that can feel more grounding. It's an anchor, per se, of what they say in polyvagal, developing anchors. There's also safe items, right? You know, bringing your stuffed animal or something like that, right? That helps you feel safe. So, you know, reaching for connection when you can be very helpful. There is an extended version of this video. I know this was kind of a short one, but like I said, I have 2 other videos that I feel like go deep into this, and if you need even more support after you watch those videos, I have an extended of this video specifically on my course Beyond Stuck, which uses the frameworks in that course that are taught to think about, you know, feeling unsafe. So that's why it's in the course and not here, because it just makes more sense there. So if you want to check that out, I know I'm telling you a lot of things to check out, so check out those 2 videos, check out the course. I have my trigger sprint where you can really work on your trigger can be feeling unsafe, and it's a 21-day sprint to change that response. I have 2 free trainings on how to find strategies when you feel unsafe, and I'll link those below. One's a webinar I'm doing live bi-weekly, and another one's a shorter training on why healing is hard. Those are free. And then, yeah, I always have this YouTube channel, so please subscribe, like the video, and, you know, check out those other videos as well. And I hope that you can get comfortable with being inside this experience. You know, you can work on that process of rewiring your body, rewiring your brain, and things like that. All right, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye!